thought experiments, and I think we can speculate a little bit more on this side. I think, Cabana, you're pretty much interested in the price, I hear. So we will see what we can contribute to the price side, I guess. This will also a really interesting topic, I'm pretty sure. And for sure, we take the guests, we take the chats. So if anyone has questions, just drop them in the chat, and Cabana tries to pick them out and shows them on screen.
Yeah, it took a second for my YouTube to show up, so sorry about that, YouTube audience. Welcome. I see you're there now, I do believe, and the chat's filling up. So yeah, in case you missed the intro, pretty much just if we have any questions, throw them in chat. We'll do just kind of like a live stream Q&A with HODL Dog here. I was just saying we've been given a lot of information. There's still a lot for us to learn, and we will talk about at least what we know, and we can always speculate about what we don't know. That's part of the fun in it as well. Okay, so now I am seeing that the stream is on. So which one is it? Yeah, now it's off. This is the strangest thing. Are we back on, Alex K? Twitch is up, so we're still good. YouTube, shout me out in the comments if we are.
I think we're up on YouTube again.
Yeah, and everybody says we're lagging again. What is going on here? I've never had issues with StreamYard. All right, chat. Well, HODL Dog and I will just chat for a little bit, and let me know if the video.
The chat is back. We're back again.
Yeah, let me know if the video and audio are good. Just over the next 30 seconds to a minute, and then we'll continue on. HODL Dog and I will just chat here for a second. So, yeah, sorry about the technical issues. I'm really not sure what the heck is going on, but anyway, what's up? Johnny No Good, Vogel, we're back. Hey guys.
The lack of beard makes mouth go out of sync. I think this one goes for you, Cabana.
Hello, I am Godzilla. La la la. Yeah. Okay. Fine. No lag. Okay. Cool.
Thanks for the patience, guys.
Yeah, thank you for the patience. So if we missed it on YouTube because of whatever technical issues were out there, if you have any questions for PulseChain, this is kind of just I introduced it as a casual Sunday chat. So yeah, we know so much. We don't know a lot of other things, but we are free to speculate. We've been given a lot of, I guess, food for thought screens or pinned messages in Telegram. We've with a table of actually altcoins, which is fun to speculate on. Funning Jim says we're good. Hey, Funning Jim.
Hey, man.
Yeah, and feel free to come on if you have any takes on Pulse. I'm not sure if you've been out of the loop because you've been traveling the world, but anyway. And we also have, what was the latest one? We have the PulseChain goals too, which was really cool. So yeah, there's just plenty to look at now. So I guess the first part that we initially started to talk about before the YouTube issues, and we were trying to fix those, was the sacrifice period, or how to prepare for it, and especially if you're a Hexagon. So if you are a Hexagon, and it's up to you if you want to part with your hex. Now, I am not one to just say, oh, well, I have a bag of hex, so I'm going to be sacrificing it because my hex is precious to me. However, the other bags of coins dynamic for Hexagons who may hold those, that presents a very unique opportunity, because you have the opportunity, if you are willing to sacrifice those, you can sacrifice those as is, or you have the option, as Motley Investor has been campaigning this past few days, you can convert those into hex, and that is, in a way, ever so slightly pumping all of our own bags, because that hex goes off into the goes off the market, goes into diamond hands, and I am of the opinion, as many hexagons are, that this hex will not be dumped on the market, which is just a another pumpamental, if you will. So, what's your take on at least that part, HODL Dog?
Yeah, I was reading a little bit the comments on Twitter and the strategies, the different strategies out there. So could be that a lot of people try to accumulate now the hex and to get like the price of hex up and then sacrifice this hex. And I tried to take the position of Switzerland tonight a little bit to stay neutral. So let's protect my hex on the ERC or on the Ethereum chain. But I agree with that. Better to buy probably hex and to accumulate hex. Then we had this list with, for example, Bitcoin, wrapped Bitcoin, or Link, or DAI. This list is not final yet, can change at any moment. But if you have some altcoins left, of course, this would be a great moment to sacrifice them to get a huge ratio for Pulse, for example. And what I probably not going to do is end my stakes early, because I would like to get my airdrop, the one-to-one airdrop. So my staking ladder will get airdropped on the PulseChain network. I will have both, so I can just, in a way, relax and sit back. Good day, Funding Jim.
Good seeing you guys. Continue your thought. I wanted to hear more.
And so I will have both chains. I can relax on this part. I will have my ladder on both chains, and I don't have to emergency end stake any of them. Of course, you could now add a little bit the game theory. You could then start to end stake your hex Ethereum stakes to sell them to get more Pulse hex, but this is already really going forward and beyond what I think I'm going to do with my one-to-one airdrop. This would be the part of the one-to-one airdrop. Then you have the second part of if you hold any liquid hex or you have some big stakes coming out in the near future, which we can discuss.
All right, Funding Jim, good to see you. I know you've been on perhaps a world tour, or at least south of the equator. How's it been going? And just catch us up on how you've been, because I haven't chatted with you in a bit. And yeah, any thoughts on I guess this hex to Pulse or sacrificing, or we can start there?
Yeah, so I've been out of the loop. It hasn't been that I haven't been paying attention. It's just I have 3 companies that I operate. Obviously, each of them have their own tax responsibilities, so I'm paying or doing all of the processing of my normal businesses. Also, I'm liquidating real estate in California. I don't think that California real estate for me is a good place to be as far as appreciation of the asset. Sure, as far as nominal value, but I think I will lose purchasing power because the tenant base has changed or is changing. People are migrating from California into Las Vegas. They're selling their LA property or whatever to go to a lower tax state and where they can get a bigger house.
Arizona and Texas, I've heard as well.
Yeah, Tennessee, Texas, Arizona. So as far as like real estate stuff, I've been doing a lot of moving around, and it just hasn't allowed me to have, the dedication to streaming and things like that recently. But I have been paying attention a lot to what Hex is doing and the Pulse project. So I'm excited about it in a lot of ways. And I am curious about the strategies of people as they consider this stifling of the hex adoption. Because if you have $100 and you say, hey, I want to throw that into something, a hex product was amazing when it was a penny or 2 pennies or 50 cents or $5 or $50 to basically do that process of first acquire it, then stake it, then later consider the unstaking, right? So I am excited about Pulse in lots of different ways, also based on the experience that I did have on the Matic system for QuickSwap. That was a great experience. I think it actually got a lot of people, whether you want to say degenerate trading or, liquidity pool, providing or whatever it was as far as QuickSwap stuff, the same boom there that happened in Uniswap. I think right now it's like a $200 million market cap. So it's had exponential growth on a low transaction cost system, an L2 system, right? So I'm very excited about Pulse for lots of different ways. I do have minor hesitations, and my minor hesitations, I probably don't know enough, and maybe other community people do know more. And ultimately, Richard or people behind Richard know the most about the timing. The timing is, are we having topping signals? Are we having extension of a longer bull market in crypto in general? Is there more people that are participating because they see Elon Musk kinds of tweets? People have advertisements in their normal email and they had nothing to do with crypto before, but now they're seeing more content like that. So my question about Pulse is the sacrifice chamber element, right? The timing of that, the lag between the sacrifice means that you're locking in whatever your gain is. If you're going to lock in a dollar value and you're going to say, hey, Hex moved up a lot and I'm going to sacrifice some of that to get the dollar value and participate. And then there's a month or 2 months or 3 months before a fork. I don't know. No one does. And then after the fork, you do have trading ability because the smart contracts of Uniswap V2 and all these other kinds of contracts will exist on the fork, on the Pulse version, but they really have no value yet. There's no dollar value. So because you have a USDC version on Pulse, it may never have a bridge back to dollar, but there's still going to be brand awareness and speculative what if that people will still trade their ERC, their PRC20, whatever that is, for a PRC20 version of USDC or TUSD or whatever stablecoin. And they'll trade also for the DAI version or whatever of a stablecoin or whatever it is that they want to, move a token of no value. I'll give you one of this token of no value for 3 of token no value. Like, so the confusion in my mind is still about like the dollar equivalent because none of those things exist yet. And I'm really honest, Richard, and 2 years ago, before Hex was ever launching, I used to be an admin and I used to be participating quite a bit. And I had hesitations that I put into the public about why would an exchange put us on there. The personality, the cult of personality of Richard or about the community isn't necessarily that you're going to pay Binance $2 million to list and 10% of the token so that they can become, basically whales in the system. So my same hesitation is still something I'm working through right now as far as my participation. I'm definitely going to participate, and I would have participated in a massive way, but now I'm still like cautious, because I don't know those dynamics of the human beings that are pushing by that.
Right.
So a lot to discuss, but that's basically why I'm interested in this conversation.
Yeah, and there have been some great conversations. I don't know if you saw the Australian stream last night, or I guess it was morning for them, but that was just a good overall chat, if you will, and brought up some really interesting points. HexTA brought up a really good one that I'll probably bring up here in a bit. But HODL Dog, for your interest in PulseChain, I know you're cautious to get rid of any Hex, but are there any altcoins out there that you can be like, yeah, I can see myself parting with these for this opportunity, or how are you approaching it?
Yeah, at the moment, I'm just holding some dust back from the first bull run, or the last bull run of Bitcoin. But I could see now, was just thinking about this list. So if you see this list of projects which are listed, this could mean that they have some sort of relevance, or maybe for the founder of PulseChain, or for this group of developers. And I'm interested in some of them coins, but I would not like buy now the ERC20 or the other chain version of this coin. I would rather maybe fill a bag on the new PulseChain with the Pulse token or the X token, how you want to call it, and then by the P version of this token. Exactly what Funding Jim is saying. Of course, you will have a crazy price discovery process in the beginning, and I was also like asking questions on the Wake Up Hex stream about the USDC value, the USD value, where's the liquidity coming from, which is now sitting on the ERC20 Hex chain, when you want to say, or in the Uniswap chain. So I am also like a little bit cautious at this moment, but I know there are people working on this, and I just try to consider that a lot will change until the launch, and we just have a rough direction where it could go. But of course, it will be a new ecosystem if you compare it to the Binance Smart Chain now and the Pancake Swap, which is something I would not really promote, but you can see now has more volume in terms of transactions than the Ethereum blockchain, and this is crazy if you see the adoption which could go on. And I think we will see something similar here on the PulseChain ecosystem with a decentralized exchange with some side features, for example, a finished product like Hex and other many stuff which I'm maybe not even capable of thinking of at the moment. So,
yeah. And I wanted to get Inviting Freedom's question on here. And this is kind of why we're here, just to toss around questions in chat and produce some really good conversation around this. So, what are the options for Hex that's staked for years? I'm 100% staked. Well, Inviting Freedom, I don't think you are alone in that at all. I think many Hexkins are 100% staked. They're staked for years, and really, I would not even think of emergency end staking, even if I was halfway through a large stake or something like that. Especially if you were staked through big payday, your penalties are just going to be enormous. So that thought would not even cross my mind. When it comes to hexagons, for me, when I think of this question, sacrificing, it comes to those other bags that we were talking about. So if you do have, coins on this list, for instance, if you have some Maker or Litecoin or Doge, you've had a great run in Doge lately. ADA's gone up immensely. If you're not attached to it and you're interested in getting some Pulse, that is when my mind goes to thinking, okay, well, if I want Pulse, how best can I pump my Hex bags? It would be to convert those coins into Hex and then sacrifice that Hex. That doesn't mean you're taking the Hex that you had in your mind for the long term away. It's just transferring some other coins that you are deemed sacrificial into Hex, taking that supply off the market, which I'm of the belief that supply will go into diamond hands if it's sacrificed for Pulse, and it's kind of like a double win there.
But to come back to the question as well, it's like, yes, nothing really changed. Maybe we will have for sure this price discovery process, but you will be staked on the Ethereum blockchain and you will be staked like the same on the Pulse chain. And if the Hex Ethereum version would go to zero, the PulseChain version of Hex should have a value. And if you're staked 100% for many years anyway, like many of us, this will not really hurt you, because you're just like, the price will be the price when your stake will end, and the protocol will work. You will get more Hex Pulse on your stake every day. And I think this will maybe not even happen, that the ERC20 version of Hex will go to zero. This is something I was not thinking about yet so much, because I think both versions of Hex will live on their chain forever and have value.
So I see that Motley's coming on board, but let me ask my question real quick.
Go for it.
I'm going to make a comment about the sacrifice. I know that right now we're talking a lot about the idea of bringing up the Hex price on the Ethereum network, and then sacrificing that because you're not creating sell pressure. You're not really pushing down the Hex price. If you are going to convert out of an existing altcoin bag that you might have into Hex, you're obviously just like a seesaw, you're moving down that price, who knows what percentage or whatever, but you're moving up the Hex price. And if he does have this $1 million per 4.2%, scheme about how that gets weighted, I think that's really interesting. I think that's a great narrative, and I think that's what a lot of people are kind of parroting. The other thing that is interesting that's counter to that as a strategy, it really is up to the developers that are forking and the rules of how the fork will happen. Liquidity in the form of on QuickSwap, as an example, the Matic blockchain, the Uniswap contract, you were basically still right now wrapping tokens from the Ethereum network and putting them into the Matic system, into the blockchain over there, right? So you're taking value out of this system, wrapping it up, putting it over here, and you have somebody or an entity that is basically like an escrow agent. They're getting a small, tiny fee for wrapping and unwrapping tokens, right? And it goes back to the original system when you want to exit out into a fiat ramp, into your pay your house or pay your life, right, in dollars. So the shuttling system, the wrapped system, has been there for a while. It's been tested. Billions of dollars have been wrapped and unwrapped, right? So I like that process because it's familiar right now with a lot of people that are, whether it's on QuickSwap or other systems, wrap Bitcoin, Ren BTC. I mean, all of these things are, how can I get my Bitcoin on the Ethereum network? These things have been tried successfully. I mean, I personally have put, significant money through Bitcoin into the Ethereum system, right? Because I buy through cash into Ren BTC, go across the bridge, then I'm in Hex. I can move into Hex through cash, right? So I like that system. Now, the fork is different. The fork is here are two networks parallel to each other. System state completely over here, right? The bridge, when he talks about the bridge or people creating a bridge, right? Completely trustless, like he talked about the other day, that would be ideal, where there's no admin keys. It's just a bridge. I love that. My question comes down to some of the details and some of the, my engineer brain says, oh, what about this? What about that? And it's kind of that, creating my own hesitation, I guess, but it's reasonable. I'm trying to do my own research, right? So I don't really, so what I was getting at is the system or the sacrifice chamber. You might say, I'm going to move Hex in there because I want the dollar value represented and I want more pulse on the other side. But you might put ADA or any of these other networks. You might just directly put that in, because what will that do? Will it enrich the recipient of the sacrifice to change their lifestyle and drive Ferraris? Probably not. That hasn't been something we've seen displayed. We haven't seen that somebody got rich and they're changed their lifestyle because they were smart. Maybe the sushi swap people and shit like that, if you knew who they were, they're probably driving fancy cars that they weren't before. And so when I think about the direct contribution of an alt that I'm already holding and having a way to put that in the system instead of pushing into Hex, and again, I'm not being FUD about Hex, I'm saying maybe that serves as initial liquidity wrapped form for bridging back over from Pulse into those other networks, because that can be starter or primer wrapped form of token. Right now, they're pseudo anonymous because they're the individual sacrificer. If I put in ADA, I held that token, I have that ramp, there's a path. If it ever came down to some kind of audit, they could track the fact that I always had it. And I'm sure it will go through some kind of system where that's relatively anonymized, or it simply is now under the control of someone else or some other entity, potentially. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm just saying it's possible that that's the initial liquidity that provides that bridge, that provides that pool, because it's the wrapped form on the Pulse network, just like the wrapped form on the Matic network for QuickSwap. So the wrapped token is interesting. And I think it's something that if that narrative were published and actually exported an outreach message to those communities, I think it's potential to bring in more people. Because if I want to 100x the value, I want to 10x the size of the community. So I really want to be political about how we frame this outside of the existing Hex community.
Yeah, and I've noticed that that's something that Richard has been very careful about from the beginning with Pulse, and that kind of that friendly narrative, and not an Ethereum killer, but an ETH savior, so to speak, a partner, if you will. And that's a really good point there, Funding Jim. Wow. All right. Hey, also just a quick shout out. We have a first Hex streamer, OMFE or OMF, over on Twitch. Very excited to have joined and staked last week. Too cool. So glad to have you. But yeah, so thoughts on that? Any HODL Dog? Or Motley?
Sorry,
Motley, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay,
Just
cool.
waiting for Jim.
Hey, Motley.
What's up, HODL Dog? What's up, Jim?
Well, either one of you feel free to jump in, because that was actually a very interesting set of points there, especially in regards to what PulseChain will be about, opposed to Hex. The Hex already has its own community. It is a coin, but I mean, this is a whole blockchain, and it's an art of reaching out to different communities. And if that's done in an appropriate manner, this thing can scale faster than had it not.
Yeah, I mean, it's its own ecosystem, right? Like if you guys look at right now, like BSC, right? Binance's smart chain, like it's highly successful, has a crap ton of trading, pretty well adopted, and people hate CZ's guts and hate Binance, and yet it's very successful. And they didn't do anything like what Richard's planning to do, where actually they're going to airdrop a copy of everyone's ERC20 tokens on the chain already. So you already have some funds and stuff to go play around with. Now, are you going to gain adoption? Is there going to be liquidity provided for your token? There's a bunch of unknowns. So it's kind of hard to go with your strategy on what you're going to do, where you're going to speculate. But what we do know is obviously the Hex community is going to come over, and that alone is worth its weight in gold. So it will do very well. How well, it's yet to be seen. What will the narrative be? Hopefully we have a little less. Our narrative this time hopefully keeps us from getting gatekept as much, but we will see. There is a lot of negative stigma that goes along with Richard Hart and the Hex project. So we'll see. I know there's probably going to be a lot of fun with the sacrifice phase, but it'll be interesting to say the least. I'm curious to see where it goes. There's still more information that we need before you can really start speculating on your ultimate game plan as far as the sacrificing phase, getting into getting polls, and maybe
what will the price of Hex do in that
stuff.
time? Yes.
Oh, that should be pretty easy. That should be going up. I think we're already seeing indication of that right now, right? Like we're on our way to all-time highs again. So and we don't even have an exact date on when the sacrifice phase is going to be released. Might be as little as 1 to 2 weeks, according to Richard on last stream, maybe a month, but we know it's coming soon. That's easier. He can set up those addresses to send the tokens to. That doesn't take anything. It's the only thing I'm a little hesitant on that is the fact that PulseChain's not done. They do have a test net. They're still working on stuff. The only thing I don't like about it is potentially people sending a lot of economic mass into the sacrificing phase, and you either get token X, or I think Richard even talked about it. It's not even necessarily has to be a token. You're just going to get some sort of receipt saying, hey, you have this amount of token X available, and then when Pulse comes out, you can trade it in for Pulse. The only thing I'm a little hesitant on that is if we do the sacrifice phase before Pulse is really ready to go, you're tying up hundreds of thousands of dollars with the receipt, which I don't mind doing, which I will make a big play in Pulse probably. But at the same time, I don't like my funds being held up with not a end date in sight, because we all know software is hard, and PulseChain is actually the part where Richard and his devs have to continue working on stuff. So issue comes up, they have to resolve that before they release Pulse token. You don't want to rush software, and we could be sitting there with a receipt for Pulse token for a while. So I'm not trying to FUD or anything like that. It's just it's a concern I have, just waiting there for
good
if the sacrifice comes before PulseChain is done, I guess is the big thing.
I will maybe just to jump in quickly on the first part of your discussions, where we're really gonna build a new ecosystem, and when there are some features set right, we can be a good replace for a BSC ecosystem, or even like Richard Hart says, safety Ethereums. And I think we should also focus a little bit on this. If you watch the Telegram pinned messages, it's more about the sacrifice phase, how it works, but you have a little bit of information like that. Will be some validators, you have some fee burning mechanism, but like Motley said, you need time to set up the software properly. You need maybe also to consider it could be the right time to prove to the community that we are truly decentralized, by not like in the Binance Smart Chain, the validators are probably controlled by one person or by one company. And if we're going to do things right, and with we, I mean Richard Hart and his team, I think we could really be outstanding compared to other products. We did the same with Hex. We had audited software, we had economics audits, just to prove some fathers and haters. We have some really good external audits, and maybe if we can go the same way with the PulseChain network to see its open source code, we hear this a lot, and also just to focus a little bit on the technical aspects, this would be fun, of course. And like maybe you missed this monthly, I'm really interested in, I saw your last stream when you addressed that you would like to try to be a Pulse whale. So no, but just like I try to make a little bit the difference between like the speculative aspect here, how to sacrifice, how you could gain more Pulse, and the technical aspect, the software needs to be properly developed. We need a lot of, let's call it bridges or some sort of connections to all those chains. It's like it said, it's a multi-chain sacrifice phase. So you have multiple chains connected and not just ERC20 tokens. We had this with the launch phase of Hex, where you can claim as a Bitcoin holder your free Hex. This will go further, I think, and it will be bigger. And it will address way more people, and it will be similar or maybe better to the Hex launch phase. I think also Richard learned a lot from this Hex launch phase. That's why we see a slight different approach now.
So I have you want to say something, Motley? I thought you were about to say something.
Me? No.
Okay. So I was noticing, again, this famous phrase that history doesn't repeat, it tends to rhyme, right? Ethereum had its launch. It had some gravitas behind it because it was Silicon Valley VCs and people that believed in Vitalik, even as a young guy, as a super genius, right? So that launch, that ICO, where people could put Bitcoin into buying Ethereum. There was no operating product. There was no network. The crypto was still relatively in its infancy. It was 5 years old. It did have market cap, but it wasn't nearly the image in the public as it is now. Crypto is breaking through barriers, really, of generations and people that are not really computer savvy. Partly also because of COVID. I think because of COVID, people are attention to computer systems more imagery than mainstream media. And I think it's really interesting that Ethereum, without having an operating product or any trended history or previous success by Vitalik, right? He didn't have a previous product that worked. And then now he's launching something new. We do have that, right? It took a year to 10x, less than a year, but it took a year to 10x Ethereum price value. The following year, that price value 10x'd. So in 2 years, it 100x'd. The third year, it 10x'd from that point, right? So if you're basically saying, I think that this has value, you got to ask yourself what most other things that get adopted need to do. They need to have 10 times the value for the population that's using a current thing to move over to the new thing. So if you're a horse and buggy guy, that car needs to be 10 times better, even if it's a 30 horsepower Model T or whatever, Model A or whatever, right? It needs to have 10 times the utility. So taking the snapshot, doing a fork, having all of the operation, knowing from day one that hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, have moved back and forth in the Ethereum code. And now this is a code that's identical. It's the same code, but it is exponentially less price. The transaction cost is exponentially less. The products, again, it depends on how much of a snipping out that Richard or the team want to do about this was a scam coin. It was always known to be a scam coin. Should its scam coin be replicated on the Pulse network, or can we leave that trash behind, right? Not people that have they pissed off Richard in the past, or there's some kind of personal vendetta, or none of that stuff, right? If you look at it from the lens of crypto and you say, this is DeFi, or this is off-ramp to dollar, and obviously USDC is going to have admin keys in order for you to extract dollars through their Coinbase network, right? So there's certain things that are going to have to be forgiven or understood as that's a necessary evil. We need to work with banks if you want banks to give you dollars that you spend on cars and dinner, right? Or whatever, right? So it will be interesting to see ETH 2.0 be Pulse. I think that might be one of the reasons why we're doing it sooner than a long hype cycle or a long participation cycle or adoption phase or anything like that, like we did before with Hex. What are your thoughts about history rhyming?
All right, so nobody has thoughts? I think that's an excellent point. I saw that you had posted that in our private chat for a talking point to talk about, and it actually does. And it's not just in terms of actual technology, but also markets and price cycles as well. So that's, I'm more on the price side, but just in terms of looking at something and being like, oh, okay, well, this narrative started here with that, and this is how that went. Well, you've had other projects, and we can call them projects because Hex is the only product that have gone the way of, we're going to copy this, we're going to do this, and it doesn't turn out just the same or worse. Well, what if something actually ends up being better? Then what? And nobody thinks about that because they're so set on, I guess, the first mover advantage. It's like, oh, well, this has been around for X amount of years. There's no way that something could come along and say overtake that in market cap or use case because the other thing has been around for so long. But what if something came along that was actually better? And what would that look like? Could we be looking at it right now? I don't know. It's exciting to think that we could.
I think if we would know where to look right on GitHub, we would see some improvements, because Richard Hart was talking about some proposals the devs are making to improve some code which is open source, which should get merged. So I think what Funding Jim is saying, I agree that stuff is repeating, but I hope for the best, and that there's a little bit of hopium inside, of course, but I hope that Richard Hart, and he proved us this with Hex, that he tried to improve stuff. And dude,
what?
Monthly, mute yourself.
That was me? I was muted, wasn't I?
Who's that?
Oh, I think you're good, man.
I'm muted.
Yeah, I think I was muted the whole time.
Yeah, we're good.
Sorry, I just heard some stuff. I don't know where it came from. Sorry.
Okay.
Lost the line.
What was the topic you're talking about?
I would say, the history repeats itself, but I hope truly for the best that Richard Hart, and he proved that with Hex, that he is willing to improve stuff for the better. So this would be the point. And I try to find out where this sound is coming from in my headset. So,
Motley, what are your thoughts about Wrapped, that top 10 or top 20 or whatever ones they're porting over? What are your thoughts about who's going to provide that wrapping or wrapped process? Because that's what seems to work on other networks that are not Ethereum at the moment. A wrapped situation. If you're moving Bitcoin into Ethereum, you're wrapping it.
Are you talking about the non-ERC20s that are on the sacrifice list?
Yes.
I mean, if we're porting it over Uniswap and all the liquidity pools and stuff like that, I mean, there's no reason why the wrap version of those coins can't be in the ecosystem. And are you asking if they're going to take those coins and use it as like a small liquidity pool to start off, or what's your question?
Well, what I'm saying is, if there is a fork, when there is a fork, there's a Pulse version. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the wrappers or unwrappers or the entities behind, RenBTC or WrapBTC, the people that are wrapping, onto the people that are wrapping Ethereum to be on Matic or USDC to be on Matic, right? Or to be in the QuickSwap system, right? Those are basically pathways to dollars or yen or whatever it is that you want to do. They're pathways because they're existing off ramps and on ramps of money, of fiat, right? So at the fork, those things don't exist. There's no bridge. Do you think that the bridge is a path for wrapped tokens on one network to move into the Pulse system and provide the buying pressure? Because you really, even though you're trading back and forth before, after the fork happens, the bridge is what's going to matter, right? Because you can say all you want to with monopoly money, but it doesn't mean anything until you spend monopoly money.
Exactly, and I don't think he's touched too much on the bridge yet, has he, Richard? As far as
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Sacrifice chamber. I love the narrative of Hex price will rise. I think it will definitely rise significantly until the end of the sacrifice window. We will see that chart go up. We will see that number rise in fiat value, and your sacrifice, instead of you putting 100,000 hex in to get X dollars or whatever it is you're trying to put in as a goal, you might only put in 20,000 hex because you will see significant rise in value. I think that will definitely happen. But my question is, maybe there's a play to say, I will sacrifice some hex, but I love hex because it has a dollar value pegged, right? But maybe I will put in ADA or some dust from some other product or some, Bitcoin, or whatever it is, because that potentially can be the initial wrapped tokens inside of liquidity pools that whoever the bridge builder is, whether it's Richard or others, utilize. Those networks might come over to Pulse because they have wrapping profit. They have profit of wrapping and unwrapping.
I mean, it could be, will be, I don't know. And this is where all this stuff gets really tricky, because we just really, even after that last stream, so I missed part of the stream. So that's kind of my plan today when I find some time, is to go through some of the parts I missed. But I still have a lot of questions that weren't answered. And like, we know the gist, and it was kind of what we already kind of assumed, but there's still a lot of stuff that we just don't know with the bridges and with the price of Pulse. Where will it be starting at? There's so many unknowns. It's really hard, because I've had a lot of people come to me for like optimal game theory going into Pulse, and it's almost hard to sit here and try to come up with it because we don't have enough yet. Hopefully we get more clarification before the sacrifice phase so we can move more intelligently when the time comes. But yeah, I don't know.
Also,
there's a lot of stuff I want answered still.
Yeah, and I guess it's also the time factor of when you sacrifice your coins, correct? So
yes and no. It's dependent, right? So then this is what a lot of us have been having discussions on. Is it's all dependent at what Pulse starts at. How many decimal places back close to zero does it get? Because the further back it goes, it's more optimal for you to get in early, regardless of the price of Hex. Because even if price of Hex goes up multiples of X, if you can move in on Pulse when it's still at like 0.000000001 evaluation, Hex could do a couple multiples and it still doesn't matter if someone bought Pulse at fucking 0.0000001 in the beginning. Even X going up tremendously during this sacrificing phase, it's not going to outweigh wait, now if that decimal point is moved over more, then it's a different story. Then hex doing multiples of X might be more beneficial for you to wait a little bit before you enter. And again, that's just kind of a missing piece of information we don't have right now.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. So, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Me? Yeah, sorry. No, I totally agree with monthly, but I also see the bridge stuff, like also Funding Jim said it like this. We will of course attract new people and existing chains or existing communities, but we also need the bridge stuff. And I really hope that we have more information, like Monthly said, that we can think about, because so far I think all the chats and the live stream helped a lot the community. Like if you do this thinking alone back home, it's maybe harder than to do it in the group. So to have the time a little bit to think about stuff, then we would have the launch phase, and then after the launch phase on day 33 or whatever, the mainnet is done and it's there, and we will get the ability to mint our tokens. I see this a little bit as a fact that we have this value of 0 for Pulse when it starts, and then we mint our tokens, and I think all hell will break loose then, and this will be the fun part.
I'm super excited about that potential. And again, with our community already being what it is, who it is, the battle tested elements, the learning curve that a lot of us have already endured, the new people that will come on board because before they didn't like the narrative of Hex or any of the storyline and they just didn't participate. But now, whether they have gains or not, or they just passively observed the rest of the crypto market moving on without them, they will come in. I think that they will come in. The first price shock, when I lived in Florida and I could buy a 5-bedroom house for like $140,000 in a beautiful neighborhood, and then I moved to California and the same house is $1.7 million, right? The price shock stuns you. You're like, holy fuck, it's the same thing, but in a different place. I think that can really work to our positive narrative on Pulse, is because there are people that are getting new eyeballs. And initially they do say, hey, okay, I'll throw $500 at that thing. How do I do it? Well, you have to first have whatever the slippage is to get your wire transfer into Coinbase. Coinbase, maybe you're trading back and forth, but soon you're going to have exits into DeFi. When you go into DeFi right now, again, with Ethereum, it eats up so much of a percentage of a $500, lottery ticket purchase. That's what a lot of people participating in crypto right now are doing. They're saying, I heard about these massive gains. This guy started with, $100. Now it's worth 10 grand. I'd like to have 10 grand too, right? But they eat up a lot of that economic energy just in the transaction. So I think that the narrative is going to be very, very positive. I think that because we already as a community have inroads with some of these communities, if we haven't completely, had Twitter wars and shit like that, we still know these people maybe directly. I personally know the leadership of TrueUSD. 3 years ago, as I was having conferences with them all the time. So like TrueUSD is a stable coin. And if they have a copy, because of ERC20, if they have a copy on Pulse and the code and the wrapping and all those processes are basically just need to have the switch flipped. That's all they really need. They're not having to build out new things. They're not even having to fix things that they already fixed bugs for in the past. At this point of maturation, they have 3 or 4 years of history of being a stablecoin, right? The backers or the founders, the VCs of TrueUSD, they're all Stanford people. Everybody is Stanford. So I think that there's inroads that our community can make to those other communities. Even the stuff that Richard is doing subtly, like the past 2 streams you've seen him in, it's not a Hex shirt, it's a purple shirt, and it's a fucking Louis Vuitton shirt, right? So he is trying to temper his absolute love and lust of Hex and hexagons as a network, as a real network that other dApps that right now cannot function. If you said, I want to build a video game that's rivaling Fortnite, I want to actually use Decentraland, right? Things like that. You really can't. I mean, yeah, you can speculate and say, I'll spend $500 to buy a pair of pants on an avatar. That's what this Decentraland kind of stuff is, right? I think that the transaction cost makes a big difference. I think that brings in more people and more eyeballs and more, spontaneous commentary from people that are not crypto people yet, I think.
Welcome, Markable, by the way.
What's up, Markable?
What's up, guys? What's new?
Oh, not too much. So you wanted to chime in. Did you have any particular comments on what was discussed, or what struck you there?
No, I just had a call with my for business, and I saw HODL Dog send me a message if I wanted to join like an hour ago. Then I checked in. I was like, hey, it's still going. So,
oh, cool. Well, glad to have you. First time I've been on stream with you, man. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say another element to this is the crypto playground that this opens up. So, of course, the original design intention for PulseChain was to benefit Hex and tear down these ridiculous fees that have been built up over time on Ethereum, and it's I don't know. How I'm trying to phrase this correctly, or this question. So how do we see all of these other coins faring on PulseChain? Because me personally, and somebody's got a lot of background noise there, but me personally, I think it's going to take quite a bit of economic energy to get these, if you were interested in, say, an ADA on Pulse or something like that, that becomes a highly speculative endeavor, to where something like Hex, I think the community will flock to it, will rush to it, and that will find, the price will be discovered rather quickly. But what about all these other coins? Because as Hex TA said, and I think it was a wonderful point on the Australian stream last night, not only is PulseChain getting, copies of all these coins, but with Hex, it's getting a copy of the community. And that thought really resonated, because that's so true. Like, you're getting an entire loyal community being ported over, but
except they're whales now.
Correct. Except for whales, but that's
no.
not
I mean, they
happen
are
with these
Hexicans become whales in the ecosystem.
Oh well, yeah. In that sense,
makes a big difference. Makes a big difference.
Yep. Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there.
Even though Richard has railed over the past few months, I think he is going to soften a bit about the NFT culture. I don't think he's going to embrace it with open arms, but you do realize that if this fork happens, the NFTs are copies. So if you have an existing NFT in OpenSea and you have a trading platform of moving JPEGs from person to person, and a blue check mark because you're the one that actually owns it and everybody else sees an image of it, right? That's basically the narrative. Instagram accounts that people spent 5 or 10 years creating their content, putting on Instagram, getting popular, maybe millions of followers on their Instagram account. They create NFTs out of each of those images. And then that becomes another speculation where people can buy that original version. Well, that original version, there's a Pulse version as of the fork. That original version, there is a Pulse version. So I can see a lot of creating the marketplace. I don't think that eBay needed to be political. They just created a marketplace. They needed to create a place where people could trade cars or fucking Pokemon or a cornflake that looks like Abraham Lincoln or a piece of toast that looks like Jesus. I mean, all of that stuff happened on eBay, right? So if we continue that narrative honestly and say, look, you want to do these things, you want to trade, you want to speculate, you want to play games and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars because you're moving, avatars through a central world. As long as we don't alienate those people, they will come to Pulse, and you will see rocketing of your Pulse price appreciation. You will see rocketing, absolutely. So I love a lot of what Richard does. I love a lot of what we have done over the past couple of years as far as like distilling the narrative of the purpose of crypto or the immutability or, rug pulls suck and it's true. And all of the shit, the horrors of crypto. I love that we try to educate, but at the end of the day, this is a marketplace. Vitalik does not weigh in on every single thing that happens on the Ethereum network. He doesn't, right? There's a reason. It's a marketplace, right? So as long as we don't alienate the Ethereans by saying we're going to do something better and you guys are assholes, I think that this thing will rocket. I think it will be amazing. It will be terrific, right? Do I want to buy NFTs? No, right? Do I want to spend my day railing against why you shouldn't buy NFTs? No, I'm not going to do that either. It's a marketplace. People want to buy shit, they buy shit. They want to sell it, they sell it.
There's a good analogy to what Gary's saying, right? Like, so you can speculate on these new bags, and they probably will come with time. But when there's a gold rush and everyone's going out west trying to find their claim to land or the right stream or the right mountain to find gold, you can go out there and you can speculate. You can go and be that gold speculator, and you might hit it big. But most of the people that go out there, they don't, right? They usually strike out and they miss. It's the guys that sell the pitchforks, the shovels, the equipment to go out there and speculate. Those are the ones that get rich. So that's kind of my initial play, right? Because at the end of the day, I know Pulse is going to be successful, and I know Hex is going to be successful because that's what's going to gain the adoption on the Pulse network first. So those are my two major plays. I'd rather be selling you the shovels and pickaxes to go out there and mine and speculate for whatever you want. Meanwhile, I'll hold the convenience store that sells you all the tools that you need there to go out and speculate. And one more thing, just a kind of a little aside to NFTs and everything, and this will hopefully help the Hexicans get some more money. Gary V is looking like he's going to be doing an airdrop. Looks like the snapshot is going to be May 5th. He has alluded to you want to have at least one Ethereum in your possession, so in your wallet. For most of us, that would be MetaMask. And it looks like the snapshot will occur May 5th, so I would probably have your stuff in there at May 4th at the earliest. If you have multiple Ethereum, spread it out to multiple wallets. And it looks like he's doing an airdrop to coincide with with the launch of Uniswap V3. So if you guys want to potentially some more money to get for free and put into Hex and into Pulse, if you have multiple Ethereums, I would split that up into multiple wallets right now and potentially a snapshot and an airdrop that you can go ahead and dump and get more Hex with. Just throw that out there.
So how about if you have like 0.75 Ethereum, are you screwed?
So he said
Probably.
he didn't. Yeah, he came out. He's like, hey, if I were you, I would get one. But obviously, the price of Ethereum has gone up since then, so it might be a USD value. I'm not sure, or it just might literally just be at least one Ethereum. But I mean, why risk free money? Pay an extra couple. Everyone can scrounge up. If you have 0.75 Ethereum, you can scrounge up a couple $100 and put it in. Have one Ethereum in your wallet, and you should be eligible for this airdrop he's doing.
Well, it's about $700 now, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're almost at 3,000 now, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So
on a side note,
free money.
It's nothing direct, but I probably made around $200,000, maybe $300,000 using Paxful over the past year. Paxful is a trading platform, basically, and just 2 weeks ago they announced that you can do that with Ethereum. So it was pretty much only Bitcoin, a Bitcoin platform where you could buy or sell gift cards and things like that, airplane tickets and stuff. But you're basically trading back and forth and being denominated in Bitcoin. Now they are doing it in Ethereum. So I think that people can reach out directly to me about that if they have questions. If I know them, I don't want anonymous people telegramming me to death. But if I know you, then just ask me something direct. I'll tell you more.
Joe Hexotic, one Ethereum is 3K. You know how much Hex that is? Or Hex Maxi, Joe Hexotic, and stake before the fork, which is also a good point because I guess you get a copy, of those stakes as well. So yeah, it's this coin shuffling, so to speak. And, the Gary V thing is just a little added element. But like Motley was saying, if you have some ETH, why not, especially if you have multiple pieces of it consolidated into one wallet. What's the worst? Well, the worst is you're going to pay these ridiculous fees, but be careful with that.
Yeah, as far as I see that, it's just free money for more Hexicans, more economic mass for you to come into Hex and Pulse with. So I think if you got Ethereum lying around, it's a good play to do.
Yeah, and Motley, I just wanted to get your take on, because I think we covered it before you got here, but you've been pretty active over the past 48 hours or so with talking hexagons and their bags of other coins, and if they are to sacrifice those bags of other coins. I spoke on it earlier, but there has been some questioning upon oh well, should I do that? Why would I convert to hex? I'd have to pay more fees to do that. But really, in the end, in the long term,
you pump your bags in magnitude more than if you're really struggling for like $10-15 fees. Trust me, it's going to pump your bags way more than the $10-15 you consolidate just by transacting to hex first. Like I said, I think I even made the comment, like, I'll pay your gas fees. Obviously, I'm not going to pay everyone's gas fees. If you honestly are really struggling and you can't maybe you have a small bag of hex and you can't convert that, it's just not worthwhile for you to convert it. Just hit me up. I'll send you Ethereum. I don't care.
It's the Motley rug pull.
Yeah, there is no rug pull. I don't have my own token.
Now you get all these scammers in your inbox, Motley. So
yeah. I'll vet you, and hopefully I've seen you around the community before, but yeah. It's only for people who need it, right?
If Motley recognizes you, yes, but yeah. I did want to put a note out there that to be careful. This is just a community awareness alert. During Richard's live stream, there were massive amounts of new people or trolls, airdrop trolls, whatever you want to call them. Some probably just came in organically from the stream, but the PulseChain Telegram group blew up. And then I also saw, instances of other people, possibly getting messaged by these people. Richard put out a tweet yesterday in all caps about never, ever, ever giving, putting in your C words to a website. I know we're a smart community, but you have to be aware, because this whole thing, this isn't just a coin. This is a whole nother dynamic of a chain being copied over. So the scams and evildoers, there's so many avenues. There's so many avenues that they can approach this. So just be very, very careful.
This is the biggest airdrop in history. You bet your ass there are going to be a lot of scammers trying to get some.
And we have the tools to combat that right now, since with this new voice chat and the Telegram groups for either the main one, hex.com, or the Pulse chat. If you go in there, go in the voice chat, just ask your questions. Make sure you get a couple people responding back to you so they can verify what they're saying. But the best way to go in there for getting your questions answered are those voice chats, because other hexagons are always in there, always listening, and we can vet anyone that's trying to give you advice in there and make sure it's actually the correct advice. Whereas a lot of us community members, we get our like my icon right there. People can just copy that shit real quick, DM you and say they're Motley Investor, and they can go from there, right? But in that voice chat, you can't fake that shit, and you have hexagons in there 24/7 listening in. So if someone tries to feed you wrong information in there, someone will clear that up real quickly, and we'll get the admins in there to remove them. But that's a pretty safe way these days.
That's something that popped in my mind a while back, and I hadn't brought it up on the stream. Is I know that he has the testimonials on the page, and he has people that have different regular broadcasts about Hex. As far as YouTubers and things like that. Obviously, all of us were public as far as our image and face, and when we do these streams. I think that the Telegram name, like mine is Funding Gem, Motley. I mean, all of us have our definition of what our name is. I would love for that to be published somewhere, even if it's locked in blockchain or if it's on the hex.com website or whatever it is, because there are imposters of Funding Gem, and they changed the I into an L, and it looks like Funding Gem, but not Funding Gem. I'll pop in every so often into one of the bigger chat rooms, and someone will say something like, "Oh, this guy Funding Gem messaged me." I was like, I didn't do shit to you, dude. I don't know who you are, right? So I would like to have your thoughts about like a verification. Twitter gives out their blue check. There's obviously people that are OG and they stream all the time inside of this stuff. Is there any way that can be, that Telegram name of people can be published someplace that's, seems authentic? I don't know how to address it. And then the other thing is, if you go in any other Telegram room, I really haven't participated in several years, but when I was participating in other Telegram rooms that are not related to Hex, you don't see the combat telling you every 30 seconds, watch out for scams. Do not do that. Make sure that this is the truth, right? Read the pinned message, right? You don't see those narratives in those other systems. They really don't. The admins of those other Telegram rooms for certain coins, they don't give a fuck about their community, dude. They're just going to make their money. So keep that in mind. Hex Crypto at Hex Crypto on Telegram has so many bots trying to help you not to screw yourself,
Yeah, absolutely. And Hex or Motley Hextoshi has a message for you. I don't know if you can see it if you're just on audio, but he has 33 stakes he needs to pull out. His gas fee requires 1 ETH each. So thank you in advance.
Good thing I know Hextoshi. I can tell him to go fuck himself.
Funny thing is, he has a ladder rung in each MetaMask wallet address, just in time for Gary Vaynerchuk. If you help him out, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so any other Pulse items of note? I just aimed for this to be kind of like a casual Pulse refresh, regroup. Go ahead.
He did bring up, Motley brought up the Gary V thing. I brought up the NFT thing. Motley has a completely, or not Motley, Gary Vaynerchuk publicly on different videos has a completely different take on what an NFT is than the narrative that we've heard in the past also, right? I'm not saying that you should buy NFTs, but I know that Gary Vaynerchuk is a big supporter. So what are your thoughts about this duplication of NFTs on PulseChain? Because there will be a copy. There will be a fork version.
Guess that intellectual property
Wait, from
is in
all the NFTs? All the NFTs will also have a copy. That's
why
joke.
would they? That's why Richard hates them so much. You don't own the intellectual property with those NFTs. It's all a joke. You own that serial number, and it makes literally no sense. But I will say they have economic mass. So want to come over and transact on PulseChain by all means. But for me, it's just not my cup of tea. But yeah, this one of one that you had is no longer a one of one.
Well,
the only value I see in them is the hype that they bring and the people and the energy that they bring. But I think as well as I do, that once we start to do the pair, then those are the things that will drop the quickest, right? Like you won't be able to sell this stuff.
So, China counterfeits everything. Everything that you think is valuable, there is a Chinese copy that's 1/100th of the cost. And it still sells for, 10 times their production cost. So they make money no matter what, right? Like a silver coin, a silver American Eagle, if you buy it direct or whatever, it might be like $35. You can buy them. They are produced. They look identical. They feel almost identical. And they're Chinese counterfeits. They're not the real thing, right? The Pulse NFT of the $69 million Instagram file, basically, right? Someone paid $69 million in Ethereum, basically, for that blue check mark that it's mine, it's not yours, right? I don't know. If I paid $69 million for the Ethereum network, what would I pay for the Pulse network copy or the fork, right? Because it's going to be more than zero. It's going to be less than 69 million. What's it going to be?
Is it possible that, just like Hex Farmer just said, that NFT copies will also be owned by the same owner? Is that possible?
Yeah, I would think so because they have the keys, right? I think.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
So why
which would be cool.
Wouldn't that be a good community to at least alert that they have an airdrop? I think the airdrop disappears, right? If they have a fork, do they continue after 30 days if they haven't moved its wallet? What was the narrative on that?
Only the Pulse disappears, right? I think only the Pulse that gets airdrop disappears after 30 days. It wouldn't make sense if all the ERC20 tokens that you get airdropped will disappear within 30 days.
I think it's
It's
just
only the
Ethereum.
Pulse. Pulse, right?
Okay,
The
yeah.
Like you
Pulse
get
that was
Pulse
given
for
for
Ethereum.
Ethereum. Yeah.
So then
I mean,
the Pulse tokens that you get, they will disappear after 30 days, I think.
so basically what you're saying is once the fork happens, once the 30 days or whatever, the Pulse, that part might premium disappear and evaporate, right? Because it hasn't been moved, the wallet didn't move. You're saying that the NFT version on the Pulse network still is always claimable. The same keys apply to the Ethereum guy that holds that Ethereum version of the NFT. That actually is another inroad, I think, to those communities. I think if their airdrop, so to speak, their forked version, it's not airdrop, their forked version is always available to them using the same keys. I think that actually is a path of migration, or at least people saying, hey, somebody will pay me $100 for it. And it kickstarts a marketplace. eBay started with fucking Beanie Babies. That's all they traded initially when eBay launched. It was Beanie Babies, right? Now you know it as a multi-billion-dollar marketplace. The reason that one of the big reasons that Elon Musk became so wealthy is because him and his partners figured out the PayPal process that integrated with eBay. So all the stuff you hear about that is because of the kickstart of a marketplace. And I think that Pulse has that great potential, especially with the advocacy from our community to outreach into networks that are not Hexagon.
Agreed.
Yep. Just wanted to, this is also a Q&A stream. Do I need from Le Fleur, is that the flower power? I don't know. Do I need to stake Hex in order to get Pulse coin? No, if you stake Hex, you get a copy of
Stake
that
Hex
on the Pulse chain. But no, you do not have to stake Hex to get Pulse coin.
Yep.
So yeah, just wanted to clear that one up.
Another thing I have a question about, if anybody wants to comment. What are your thoughts about charts? I know that the big narrative before launch of Hex was charts will influence people. They will see the chart. Right? The chart doesn't lie. Here is the opening price of Hex because what was it, Bidesk or whoever it was the first, equivalent of $1 purchase of a Hex. What are your thoughts about charts? And if the sacrifice chamber value in your mind is equal to the value of a Pulse. I gave $100 in the sacrifice chamber, therefore my 10,000 Pulse is worth 1/10,000th of $100 or whatever the math ends up being. You know what I'm saying? Or is the chart based on the first shuttled wrapped trade on the Pulse network? Is that the beginning of the chart? Where is the chart for Pulse? How is it going to be determined when you look at chart aggregators?
Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question
one.
because I just think of the V1 Hex chart and then V2, and then it's like, okay, well, for the full pricing data, you got to go to the V1 to view that chart and all of its beauty. V2 is great, and that's what I check, pricing action on. But yeah, that is a great question.
So if $20 million goes into, or $100 million goes into the sacrifice chamber, there's a certain number of Pulse that would be represented on the other side, right? Distributed based on that placeholder. In your mind, maybe we can do a round table. In your mind, is that the same thing to you? The history of other coin launches, that happened. You believed that you gave $100 worth of Ethereum for an ERC20 that EOS was launching, and later they were going to have their own blockchain and they're going to do a one-to-one exchange. That's what happened, right? So it wasn't based on legal contract. It wasn't based on I know you and you better live up to your promise. It was a little bit because Brock Pierce was a known person. Dan Larimer was a known person. So that's why one of the reasons why they raised $4 billion in Ethereum was because Dan Larimer had history with Steemit and with Bitstamp, right? So people said, oh, I'm going to bet on that guy. Brock was already rich, not only from Bitcoin, but from other things. So I'm going to bet on that team, right? Block one or whatever. So I think that we have a great position because Hex has a trended history. Richard has a trended history. The community organically growing and distributing information has a great history, right? That's great. It's lovely. But do you see that playing over again in your mind? I gave $100 into a sacrifice for a placeholder, and then day one in the Pulse fork, that I'm not going to let go of that for less than profitable position. Somebody needs to buy it from me for more than what I paid for it, right? That's our human psychology. I gave up this, I need to get this plus profit in order to sell. That could be the strong hand position, right? What are your thoughts? What do you think, Cabana? Do you see the same thing?
I'm still thinking. HODL Dog, what do you got?
I don't think that the price will be the same, but what I don't know is the ratio we'll get. If you put in like, let's say $100 of XRP, and you should get maybe 1 to 10,000. Maybe I got this part wrong, but you should be able to get more on the PulseChain of what you initially have. Maybe not in terms of dollar values, but in terms of tokens. And maybe then in the future, you even have more in terms of dollar values if a market starts to exist for this thing. But yeah, it's hard.
An oracle. It's based on the oracle of a dollar value. He's trying to peg it to the dollar. So your $100 worth of Tron and your $100 worth of ADA is still $100.
Also in the launch phase.
Isn't that right, Motley? Am I wrong?
Yeah. This one's tough for me to
That's why we're thinking.
Yeah, I get it. It's weird because like what are we trying to avoid? Is the whole mechanism of the sacrifice phase with this token X, or this receipt that we get for X amount of tokens that we probably bought close to zero, if not zero, or as close to zero as you can get, and then is that eventually swapped out to Pulse that then starts at zero as well? So technically we have a shit ton of these coins that the complete value is zero, and then the market has to decide. I don't know.
I think
that's how I understood it so far, because we don't have a market yet for this. And maybe
but you make the market by the sacrificing chamber. Like it goes up with that percentage. And so what Hex Farmer here says in chat, it says day 30 you pay 3.3x more for 1x than day one. That's a problem if you put the Pulse price as the price of day one. The Pulse price needs to be the price of the last person buying something, because otherwise you're taking risk by sacrificing something, and you get rewarded by less gains, by a loss. That doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah, but in my understanding, you're not getting anything during the launch phase. You're just sacrificing. You have to wait 30 days, 33 days, whatever, until the ranking is done, and then you will get your portion of whatever.
I understand that you don't get anything, but it will be transformed into Pulse, and so indirectly you're still buying something at a price,
but cheaper than tomorrow. You sacrifice it for more than tomorrow, because tomorrow it will be less.
Yeah, but like but at some point the sacrificing period is done, and then Pulse comes into play, right? And then Pulse needs to have a price, and it wouldn't make sense for Pulse to have the price of what people paid for X in day one. It doesn't make sense, because then the people on day 30 will have massive losses, right?
So I mean,
Pulse is not defining the price of. Sorry, Funding, go on.
Just like in anything, you don't have loss until you can sell. So until there is a bridge, you don't have loss. If you're in the bonding curve and you're basically saying, okay, I got in on day one within the first 10 minutes, you're most likely going to be in profit no matter what, right? Because when the bridge happens, your position is, I put in $100, now it's worth 1,000, right? Whereas if you're on day 30, your position, you're going to be probably a stronger hand psychologically, because psychologically you're like, hey, I put in $100 and I haven't made anything yet, right? You're not going to sell your token for profit because you don't want to sell it for loss. And it's not possible to sell it for profit. So therefore you're not going to sell it for loss. So the bridge and the shuttling, if it's going to be shuttling back and forth of wrapped kinds of tokens onto other networks that exit out into existing fiat ramps, that's very interesting. I think that the narrative and the charts, those are going to be key points on the promotion to other communities. Hey, look, you have this thing worth something, and because you didn't know it existed, it's worth something. And look, here's the chart that shows that the ADA token on Pulse went from X to X. Here it is, and now you have the keys. You can do what you want. Do you want to continue to speculate on its price appreciation, or do you want to basically participate as a dev, as a trader, as a fucking marketer, or whatever it is on this network more so than the Ethereum network, because you can onboard so many more people that don't have a transaction cost hesitation?
Yeah, the magnitudes of X will be a major marketing / selling point moving forward. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and it's also what communities come over and find value, support, on Pulse, where others I think will be, many probably outright duds. So it's getting that economic energy and narrative. Go ahead.
The cool thing is that you don't need all of them. You have thousands of coins, right? So at least a few will stick around, and that will already increase adoption of Pulse. And from then on, your community becomes bigger, because now they have to at least transact on PulseChain. So they at least need to know what it is. So gatekeeping can't be a thing. Doesn't really, maybe a little, but not a lot, I think. So if you just have a few, that will probably bleed out to a lot more. And that will probably create what we've been saying, like a price discovery on everywhere, because people love to speculate, right? So people will, if they see an ADA, if the ADA community doesn't adopt the PulseChain ADA, people will still see that and think, maybe I should buy right now. And then maybe it's not in parity, but it will still have price movements. And so you will have more opportunity probably on the PulseChain than on Ethereum on higher market cap coins, because there, when you put $1,000 in, it does nothing, but on the PulseChain it maybe will. So that might be interesting for people, and once they understand that, they will join the Pulse, I think.
Exactly, and then there's also the potential to be a new whale in this specific coin, which you can maybe not be right now. So this is the fun part, like you said, yeah. Totally.
And then even that like my rational mind would say, well, yeah, I can be a whale in some chain, but if no one comes along, then I'm the only whale there. I'm like, but then that probably won't happen, because everyone will think that. Everyone will think, this is interesting. And then at first, it will just be people want to have it because they want to have it, and then price goes up, and then all the speculation goes again.
I think Mark has a pulse that needs attention.
And it could only take a couple of those Pulse coins, those copy of ERC20, the Pulse version. It could just take a couple of those that do gain adoption and absolutely moon for other communities to eyeball it and just like, oh, what's that? I have a copy over here, and the Pulse version of ADA just went through the absolute moon. Like that could be the catalyst to essentially bring over mass adoption in a single just event, if it's marketed correctly.
And what could these markets look like, or how does this process start? I mean, could you theorize, and I'm not directing this just at you, Motley, but anybody here, be like, Funding Gym and HODL Dog and Markable and Motley, we really like this one coin, and we're going just balls deep in it, and we're going to pump that on the PulseChain and, try to get it jump started that way. Could we see, groups of people getting together and be like, all right, this is the bag that we like, that we're pumping, and we want this to stick around on this new chain. So, you have some coordinated effort, so to speak, to, pump some of these specific coins that people like.
Undoubtedly, I'm sure that's going to take place.
Yep.
For sure.
Just which ones?
That is the question, right? Get your groups together. Get your fellow Hexagon whales that are about to become Pulse whales, and start strategizing now. I know me and a couple other Hexagons are compiling a list of stuff that we think might transfer over well as a Pulse version. So start looking into it now. Get your strategies going.
So are you saying something about Litecoin? What is the most?
I can't speak to what dollar cost is going to put his money in, but I mean,
I hope you shoot that down.
Well, I mean, Litecoin's not going to have a copy of ERC20. There might be a way to wrap it, but
that's right. Yeah.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
and
I get the joke.
do you want to buy my Pulse BitConnect?
Oh, back, huh?
That'll
Going back.
that'll be the Pulse meme coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need the meme coin. That's for sure.
There you go. There it is. We got it. We're bringing it back. Everybody, it has like its own market or stigma to it. And then you can say, BitConnect, to all these people who are like, that's all they scream and parrot. You'd be like, yeah, look, it's pumping. Richard brought it back, and then people just get really mad.
Yeah, that'll help our narrative.
Hexagons will get really mad too.
Everybody I know that's on TikTok knows about Dogecoin. I would like to see a different meme coin, but yeah, Doge is just another one that's just really popular with that generation.
Trayvon would love that. There you go. But
Hey guys, just to confirm, when you put in, when you sacrifice something, you get a 10,000 to 1 ratio, right? But that's 10,000 X, right? Like X token. Am I right?
Yeah,
on
it'll be
that?
10,000 of the 10,000 of the original. You mean 10,000 times the fork? What do you mean?
No, if you sacrifice 1 ETH, you will get 10,000 X, right? 10,000 X coin.
No. If you sacrifice ETH, you're going to get the USD value of whatever the price of token X is at the point you enter the sacrifice chamber. You get there's a 10,000 to 1 Pulse to Ethereum ratio that Richard has in mind as far as the total supply of PulseChain. So people get that mixed up. Sacrificing 1 ETH is going to give you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, sacrificing an ETH into the sacrifice chamber is just going to give you the USD value that you sacrifice of whatever token X's value. You'll get that many token X in response. The 10,000 to 1 ratio.
How much it is?
Yeah, it's literally just the supply of what Pulse is going to be to the Ethereum network.
Yeah, so the calculation that we heard yesterday, and also what I calculated myself as well, if you take 10,000 times the supply of ETH, then you get like, I think 1 trillion something.
Something trillion, yeah.
So then to get to the same market cap of Ethereum, it would have a maximum price of 27 cents. Which, wait, I don't know where I wanted to go with that. But anyway, so X would have to be lower than that. No, I mixed up again.
Your makes you think that it has to be less value because it's a fork, and that's because of the trend of the past 10 years or however many times there's been forks.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a fork. You think, oh, it's Litecoin is better because it's 1/10 of a Bitcoin. It had that narrative until it didn't. It's the same sort of thing. Like it's psychology. It's what people think is a discount or a deal versus overpriced. It's just psychology.
Yeah, and another thing to think about also is if the dynamics of ETH and ERC20. So wouldn't one want to have those ERC20 coins as opposed to a bag of ETH?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
So it's just another dynamic to think about. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I got a bag of ETH, but
ETH holders get screwed over in the snapshot if they hold ETH, because you're going to get a 10,001 ratio essentially of your ETH for Pulse. So literally Ethereum whales have like a handful of pennies by the end of the snapshot. So
you might think, you got a nice stack of ETH, but just also beware of how that works with this snapshot.
Yeah, if Ethereum whales want to come over and be in a whale in the Pulse system, they have to have skin in the game. They got to come in the sacrifice chamber. They're not going to get a bag by holding their Ethereum. So they have to get skin in the game if they want to come over and play whale games in the Pulse network.
There's an interesting thing that I talked about with Bert Kierkowski yesterday is people remember and know people that have 150 million plus hex, and when they stake that, they get a 10% bonus, right? That's the maxing out, that's the capping at the 150 million hex, right? You can hit that bonus pretty easily on the Pulse version, right? Even because you're going to have a 10,000x as many, correct? The code doesn't change, the contract doesn't change. The math of saying 150 as a cap for 10% more, that's an interesting dynamic that does change the Pulse version of Hex, because the more participants can hit that bonus. What are your thoughts?
I will be using my newfound Pulse whale bags to definitely increase my size of Pulse Hex for sure. It's definitely something I've thought about already.
Yeah, I think that's
real quick. I'm jumping out. Dinner just got served. It was definitely kitchen noise.
Thanks for stopping by,
I'll talk to you
Markable.
later, guys.
Great seeing
you. Have a good one.
Ciao, ciao.
Peace.
Yeah, I could tell his partner was like, "Hey, you need to get off that stream. It's time for dinner." Bang, bang, bang.
But yeah, let's see. Okay, yeah, I was going to say the only other talking point I had here, and we can keep it open for a little bit longer. I do have, some Sunday afternoon things to get to, but ETH Hex, where does that go? Where does that stand? Joe Hexotic had a nice comment. It's way back because we've had so many comments, but where do we see that price holding up, or does it not on the ETH chain? Does it kind of get forgotten about in terms of, or in relation to the new Pulse Hex? What are our thoughts? I guess I'll just start with you, HODL Dog.
That's a good one. Like I said in the early beginning, that I'm speculating a little bit that the Hex ETH pair will not go to zero, because they are like, we will see maybe people sacrificing their Hex, but this will just make Hex on the ETH chain more scarce. So that will be a fun thing to watch, I guess. But I can imagine it's not going to zero, because we are not actually burning the stuff down on the on the ETH chain. So it's like we saw other projects where you really burned your coins on the Ethereum chain and you got the new ones on the new blockchain. This is not happening here. The stuff will stay. Maybe the liquidity will go away, or it will be so low that we have nothing to do there. It's hard to say. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's why it's fun to speculate, right? And I believe his comment was coming back to me because it's disappeared in our chat, but he described it. I've alluded to this before. What if, and this is a fun what if the ETH Hex pair is branded, if you can use that term, as the luxury brand, because the fees are so high, but everything's fully functional. It still has that, wonderful value. It has the interest and things like that. But it's branded more so, hey, it's not going anywhere. And why would you throw away a money printer? And especially if you have two money printers, you're just not going to be like, oh, well, this one, I'm just going to use this one now until you forget about it. So I think neglecting it in a sense, or just kind of like, not caring about it, would be a terrible mistake, at least I would think and hope. But yeah, just shooting some thoughts out there.
Yeah, the other side could be that it's just not usable anymore in 2 or 5 years, because if we hear that they want to increase the S load function even more,
20 exit or something. Yeah.
It's like, okay, then it's maybe just a whale thing and you can move some big short stakes, but as soon as you go over a year or two, you just get wrecked by fees. But yeah, it's hard to say. That's why I said also in the beginning, like, I'm not really willing to sacrifice my existing hex. I agree with people who say if you buy new stuff instead of buying other coins you like, you just buy hex and pump hex your own bags first. But yeah, I would not sacrifice my hex at this stage, what we know so far. Maybe this will change in the near future.
And another thing I'll
big
just toss
point
out there.
that on screen when he said that. Can you go back to what the comment was? ETH 2.0.
I'm sorry, which one, Jim?
The ETH 2.0 is still going to happen. So, right now there's the fee problem, and right now we are ahead of the ETH 2.0 launch, but ETH 2.0 should still launch. So I'm not selling out, and I think that the value is still there to be participating in the Ethereum network and have, less steps, I guess, for those participants. And if the fees do get resolved because of a proof of stake change in ETH 2.0, the hex contract still operates the same way it does. Your APY might change because your staker class may shrink or it may increase as far as who are participating as stakers. But I don't have any intention to do anything with it. Really, it's been staked. It continues to be staked. There's no benefit in early in staking and dumping it. I see the likelihood of the two halves equaling more than the single, right? So I'll be fine to play in the Pulse network more and speculate on some of those other communities tokens than, because the bridge in the ecosystem is more inclusive. But I don't have any intention of changing my hex holding on the Ethereum network.
Yeah, and this is just one more thing that was like going through my mind yesterday. I went on a very long run, and this is what I think about sometimes. But so we have, our wonderful benevolent OA who has who knows how many of Torn, Uni, think of the airdrops and liquidity, for multiple coins and liquidity providing and all that stuff sitting on the ETH chain. So, if the ETH versions, whatever is ETH would get copied over. I'm trying to think, obviously the ETH would not hold the value, but if all of that, say in the stockpiles on the ETH side, could that not, and this is just pure speculation, be like a safety net bid? Not that the ETH hex would just go up in price, but okay, the floor is set at like 2 cents, and there's a bid there just soaking up whatever, who wants to sell it. Price gets scarce, it goes into the Diamond OA, De Beers, whatever, and just gets tucked away. That price just kind of gets soaked away, sponged away from the market, and that's how that acts on that chain. Pulse hex is the price appreciator, and that's where the action comes. And it's just, again, another dynamic I've thought about, what, and that would be a separate branding mechanism too. It's like, okay, well, you're going to get your interest on the ETH hex chain. You might not get the price appreciation, but after a while, people could see, this, floor bid, if you will, and it just soaks it up, takes the supply away, and that's it. There's less work for, an OA and effort with, strategies and whatnot. Just becomes like a safer play in a sense. And again, pure speculation.
So
but it's fun.
This is a real conversation, and it's something that you can't say from the SEC standpoint of the Howey test. I think that Richard, a lot of people believe that, truthfully, that Richard's a genius. He's a genius in lots of different ways: security, recall, photographic memory, game strategy, being a video gamer for all that time, sitting through, multiple bear markets and bull markets, right? Holding coin.
So a lot of people absolutely respect everything about Richard. And whether you want to say it's a Howey test threat or not, Richard has put on internet and in multiple streams 10,000x, the idea of 10,000x, the idea. Things like this tend to do that. I mean, he puts all the language caveats that lawyers need to hear, right?
Yep.
However, at the end of the day, when people say, yeah, that shit didn't happen, if they say that, I don't think that Richard's ego or personality will allow that to not come true. I think that the years to come after the fork and, you know, the evolution of the Hex community and the growth of appreciation of a Hex token value, you've seen the OA, whether it's Richard or an African priest, soak up 86% of the market of the supply and always be diamond hand. Maybe it goes
soon
88.
to be more.
Maybe it
Soon
goes
to be
90,
a lot more.
maybe it goes 95, right? What I'm saying is the people that are in the Ethereum Hex network, you have the most ego genius person that wants the chart to show 10,000x. I'm not selling Hex because whether I'm supposed to tell the SEC or not that I believe in this guy, I believe in this guy. I think his ego is grand enough. I think his intelligence is comparable to a Vitalik or a Satoshi if he was an individual. I think that somebody wants to get, you know, more Wikipedia hits than Satoshi, right, in the future.
And we get to see the personality, which is huge.
Yeah, so I'm still betting on Richard as much as I'm betting on the code of Hex hitting 56 cents a Hex or whatever the number would be to be 10,000 Hex. That's where I sit.
In about a year, right?
Yeah, we still have a year. I mean, again, I still see that happening. We know that, and again, it will always be anonymized. It may not ever be him. It may be speculation about somebody else that has the same narrative, that has, you know, oodles of Fed money that got given to them from something else. Who knows? But I bet you it's still going to hit 10,000x. I bet you it's still going to be part of the history book that this thing was announced, people that believed, and founder that believed, and it happened, right? I don't think that the personality, as long as Richard is alive and visible in his, you know, Latvian castle, it's going to happen. That's my belief system. Richard has a personality. No, he's very soy.
Look, it's simple, right? Cabana actually just hit it out of the park very quickly. Is you have two money printers. That's what Hex is. There's nothing wrong with Hex. We're not forking because there was an issue with Hex. We're forking because what Hex is built on has a problem. The SLO function keeps getting increased on us, so that's why Richard forked. So you now have two copies of money printers. Not only do you have money printers on both chains, they're both going to still have value. Now those money printers are becoming more rare. With this sacrifice phase, people are going to be sending in more liquid Hex that have the ability to sell. They're going to be turning that in. People are going to be turning their shitcoins they no longer want into Hex before they turn it in. That scarcity from the OA owning 87% of Hex is about to go up to 90-95% of all Hex. And not only just all the liquid Hex that's been kind of held over our heads as far as this might sell, this might dump when the price goes to a certain point. Hex ERC20 is going to go through the absolute roof during this sacrifice phase. All the liquid Hex is going to get taken off the market and go into the most diamond hands that have never sold a single Hex. The ability for us to produce more T-shares, for more T-shares to be produced in the future, is going to go down. So all your existing T-shares you have are going to become exponentially that much more valuable. You're going to have that on both chains. Both chains now are going to be De Beers, fucking De Beers diamonds. So all your marbles, just like Johnny says all the time, all these giant bags of marbles you think are now just literally diamonds. Hex is going to go to the price of 10, 20 cents, and it's going to be just the same on the other chains. One might be a little bit higher than the other, but you're going to have two bags of diamonds now instead of gigantic bags of marbles. Both will have value at the end of the day. You'd be stupid to sell either one. They're going to do exactly what they do. They're going to print you more money, and now it's just become that much more scarce, that much more valuable. and you're going to become that much more wealthy if you just hold on to both bags. Simple as that.
So you're seeing the same playbook that comes out of the juggernauts of Silicon Valley, the De Beers, like you commented about, the John Paul Gettys, is when you have a product or you have a service and you have constriction because you can't transport it without paying hefty fees, right? If you look at the movie There Will Be Blood, the Daniel Day-Lewis movie, basically he had access to ocean of oil in the ground, but he didn't have any place to sell it without paying high shipping cost on trains. So he put a pipeline and he went to the ocean, right? That's part of the history of just about every CEO or at least founder has to develop. Henry Ford, famously for the Ford automobile and the assembly line process, initially he was building those products, almost one by one with small groups of people that were building it from scratch. But then he got into the supply chain and said, hey, I need to be able to source metal. I need to be able to source rubber. And in his growth of his company became more margin because he controlled all of those costs by owning those supply chains, by creating those pathways. It's the same thing. Richard is creating a path that has a lower transaction cost, and he's limiting the ability for Ethereum to take that away from a hexagon. Oh, I don't know if you can hear the pans. I'm in Colombia right now. People are protesting labor and tax. So they're all. I'm in an apartment complex, and everybody has pans, and they're hitting it with spoons right now.
Go shout at them to buy Hex.
Yeah,
Just wanted to say the same month.
Go yell out your window, buy Hex. Go to hex.com.
let me show you for just 1 second.
Oh wow! Now you can hear it. Oh, we heard it before he muted it.
No, he's mute.
Yeah.
Turn it up, Jim.
Take off the mute so we can
Take
hear
off the mute. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Just don't do it for too long.
Wow.
Yeah, so the government in Colombia has passed a high tax on food, regular food. Like, it's not third world country. I mean, Colombia is not third world country, and especially where I'm at in Medellin. But there's riots and things like that happened the past couple of days because taxation,
Political power comes from the clanging of the pan in Colombia now. But is Ryan down there with you? Or in that area? I thought I saw one of his videos was from Medellin.
I saw him last week. Ryan
Patrick
is more touring, but also so is Patrick. Hex Lion. He's here.
Yep. We got hexagons all.
He's actually. I mean, again, I don't know how much history he tells you, but he's been coming here forever. I mean, he owns land here and shit. So yeah,
his backdrop looks like a freaking rainforest. It looks beautiful where he's at.
Yep. All right, boys, we're going on for around a couple hours now. So just wanted to thank you all for the chat. I start off the stream with HODL Dog saying there's a lot more we know, I guess, since Friday, but there's still a lot that we don't know. And we're going to find out a lot more, I would guess, within, the coming weeks, I would say. Just throw it around the room. Beginning of a sacrifice, do you think we could see it like Richard floated 1 to 2 weeks? I'd say like maybe mid-May. That would be my guess. What would you say, HODL Dog?
Yeah, I think a couple of weeks ago I said something about 30 to 90 days. So I guess it needs a little bit of time, roughly 1 month. Let's say it's 4 weeks at least. And because he also says always you cannot give estimated dates when you do software. So shit can go pretty fast in the wrong direction. So no, I think it will take some time. And for me, it's important that it takes some time because this we have seen with Hex and it turns out to be a good choice to take your time needed to make the audits or whatever you need to do. So minimum 4 weeks. But I assume also a little bit a faster pace for the small stakers, because we don't have just to save the Ethereums, we also have to save a little bit the smaller stakers out there.
Right. And I'm just talking the sacrifice chamber, as Motley has dubbed it. And I like how other streams have kind of picked up on that just automatically. It's the sacrifice chamber. That's what it's become. But I mean, that is a completely different event from, say, the snapshot and whatnot. So that can be done, as Richard has said, long before that. So I would prefer that. Well, personally, maybe get a few more ducks in line. And I know, some other hexagons out there. We're trying to round up some funds for specifically PulseChain, because obviously if you're hardcore hexagon, you're probably staked out for long, and you don't really want to emergency end stake anything. So there's that dynamic there too. What do you think, Jim? Funding, Jim?
Yeah, I need time. I mean, my stuff is relatively locked. It's not like I sit on top of a lot of liquid things. I am in the process of selling real estate to participate, whether that's in the beginning or end of the chamber, or whether that's, if I don't hit the chamber, then I'll be in a liquid position when the fork happens, and I'll buy in, the methods or bridges that are available to buy in once the fork has already happened. So I think it's good. I know that EOS, they had a sacrifice chamber that ran for a year, right? Just like we called it at the AA, they had a sacrifice chamber. It was a year long in order to have a ERC20 stand-in before there was a blockchain. So it's not like it's an unusual process. I would like to have more time before the launch, because I do think that those first few days are going to be the most critical. Your weighted average is going to be the most beneficial to you if you participate early versus late. But yeah, that's my position. Is I would like to be more time, but if it doesn't work out, then I'll be a buyer on the other side of the fork.
Cool. And Motley, final thoughts on the sacrificial chamber time frame? What you think and what you would like?
Yeah. So potentially 1 to 2 weeks, maybe out to a month. I guess I'd probably err probably closer to the month. I know, like Funding Jim, I'm in the process of freeing some stuff up real estate wise, so it would be nice to close. Fortunately, I started that process a little while ago, so hopefully we can close this month. So more time is nice. I guess my biggest concern, either way, I will make the funds happen. My biggest want out of this whole thing is essentially that Richard makes sure he ensures that PulseChain is where it needs to be before launching the sacrifice phase, because the sacrificing phase is easy. He's got to set up his addresses for the tokens to come to, some sort of AI to actually tally everything, what have you. That's not too difficult. I think he's pretty much stated that he can do that, no problem. I just want him to ensure that PulseChain is, if it's not done, it's pretty damn close. Far be it maybe a few more things as far as testing goes, but I don't want us to get in the situation where we do our sacrifice phase early, and then we just sit around with our thumbs up our butts waiting for fucking PulseChain to come out. I don't want to be in that situation where I've tied up a lot of economic mass.
That's a great
and
point.
We've done the sacrifice phase, and I'm sitting there with a nice placeholder just waiting for Pulse token to come out. So that's my biggest concern. Is I don't really mind on the time frame he wants to do the sacrifice chamber, but I would like Pulse to be followed shortly after. I don't want to sit there with an IOU for too long.
I agree with that narrative, because you will have enthusiasm and you'll have participation.
You don't want to lose that.
Priced a token, and then you're still going to be looking at the chart of what you sold. If that chart goes bad and south, you'd be like, man, I'm so glad I got a top and I put into that sacrifice chamber at that dollar value, because my token went down in value. But right now, the crypto market as a whole appears to have at least 8 months, maybe 14, 16 months more leg in the bull. So if it is a sacrifice and then you wait 2-3 months and you come back and you check and you're like, motherfucker, what I put in 10x'd, that can change the narrative kind of quickly. So I don't want to have a big lag between the 30 days of sacrifice chamber and the fork happening.
Yep. Great points. All right. Well, as we close, we'll just go around the room, do this for happy hour, but we'll do it here as well. HODL Dog, thank you for joining us this fine Sunday. Where
Thanks
can
for
everybody
having me.
find you? I put your channel link in the chat, but I'll do your one with your vanity name as well. But yeah, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube, HODL Dog. You can find me on Twitter, HODL Dog Official, and this will be the main platforms where you will find me as well on Telegram. And I would like to say the same like Funding Jim. Be careful out there. There are a lot of scammers and bots out there which try to hijack you into some direct messages. Stay in the public chats, stay in everywhere. Also in the voice chats where you can double check with other people. And normally I don't comment under my comments and demanding you to join my WhatsApp group. I don't have a WhatsApp group. So please just be aware there are a lot of scammers out there. And as soon Pulse will launch, we will attract scammers from all the other chains and other networks as well. So stay safe out there and take care of yourself.
Awesome. Funding Jim, where can we find you? Multiple channels, multiple names. Which one should we find you at?
Yeah, so the same sort of thing. If I know you personally, then you already are. I mean, obviously, I'm on Telegram. I'm fundingjim.com or fundingjim at fundingjim. The only thing that can be typoed or someone can imposter is the I, can be an L, but I don't have zeros or O's or anything like that in my name. So at fundingjim on Telegram. If you do message me and I don't know you, I haven't seen you like for a long time because you've been anonymized and you just happen to be a Telegram chat person. If you ask me something very specific as a person or as a client, I'm going to be cautious about like what I say, because still like people ask me all the time, what should I do? And I'm like, dude, that's not my arena. I can help you with your taxes. I can help you with your get capital for a business or, real estate, topics, but don't be asking me what should I do about my hex or whatever. Don't do that. And then the other thing is, if we do have some kind of relationship, I have a cell phone. I mean, maybe people have heard of them, but they're smartphones. They have Telegram on it. It takes like 1 second to show a video of yourself. Hey man, thanks for messaging. And it's like a little tiny video, but verify. If you think that you're talking to somebody and they're saying something that is maybe fishy, why aren't they just sending a little video? Hey man, we're having this conversation. Here's your name, right? It's not like and. So I do that all the time. I'm always like a little, 20-second little video, and then I'll continue with voice, or I'll continue with typing it out or whatever it is. So I have conversations all the time with other people that are hexagons. The other thing is I am, just to give awareness, so my website and things like that, that's other stuff. But Funding Jim on Telegram is the best way to reach me. And then I'm going to, George Gammon has a Rebel Capitalist thing in Miami, June 10th until the 14th. It's less than 500 people. I'm going, Crypto Coffee's going, probably Kinetic's going. George is a friend of mine, and he's the organizer for the event. Robert Kiyosaki, Mark Moss, people know him because of crypto. Other people are panelists and stuff like that. So it's probably going to be a great photo op for all of us. And I'm trying to get George to be on camera as far as Richard. And then the other thing is obviously to get ready for the Hexagon event. If you're going to go to that Las Vegas thing, I'm going to get Maddie to send out to all the people that are going to participate. I think he said there's like 110 people that have registered. So I probably will be making a very special product for all the attendants of that event that I'll give in person when I see them.
Awesome.
That's about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Motley, you're still with us. Where can we find you?
Yep. You guys can find me, Motley Investor, everywhere: YouTube, Telegram, Twitter, the main platforms I use, Twitch a little bit. We have a show, Nights of the Crypto Table, that we spread around between Dollar Cost Crypto, Look into Crypto, Crypto Coffee, and Ballet Brand. It'll be on my channel this week, Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, that you can always reach out to me. Like Funding Jim and HODL Dog said, always make sure you're verifying that you're reaching out to the right person and you don't have any looky-loos or anyone like that trying to resemble somebody else and take your money. But usually most hexagons are pretty smart and can figure out when someone's trying to scam you or not. But just be careful. And yep, very open to the community. If anyone's got any questions, feel free.
Yeah, just be very, very careful out there. That's, and more so as we get into this PulseChain launch. And Yeah,
A
just
lot of opportunity for scammers out there.
Markable 23. I don't know if you're watching, Motley, but he just posted you are a Motley Investor on Grindr as well. So
Oh, lovely. That's not my account. and I wonder why he has a grind. Never mind. Hey, you sure are, Markable. You have a good time, man. That's not me.
Oh man. All right. Well, happy Sunday to everybody out there. Thank you so much for watching, just participating in this chat. There's more to come, but yeah, thank you guys for the panel joining me today, and the chat. It was awesome. We had actually a great crowd in chat too, so more and more viewers every time. So thanks a lot, and I guess we'll see y'all soon.
Cool. Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thanks.